So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me apologize for being out this morning. Life happens. I had to roll with the punches and put out some fires this morning, but I'm going to go ahead and give everyone credit for being in the meeting, and then we're going to set another meeting for later on this week and then next week so we can go ahead and finish this up. I'm going to use the following slides to highlight a couple of things that I want us to pay attention to in the book over chapters 1 through 5, and then you guys can use it as a template for what I want you to do for chapters 6 through 10. So I asked you guys to pay attention to a couple of things. The adverse childhood experience that Dr. Matthews went through during his childhood in each chapter, the leadership mentality level he displayed, the possible PTSD or CPTSD symptoms faced as an adult. If we look down the road, what are the possible things that we could see him displaying as an adult if those things don't get healed? And then Dr. Matthews' prescriptive takeaway for students facing the same ACE. So I'm just going to go chapter by chapter and give you what I found so you guys can use it as a template for the chapters coming ahead. In chapter 1, you see him living with a family member that has a mental illness. I see him at level 5 or 6, where he says, "My only choice, meet the new challenge. I had to rise to the challenge of once again competing with the big boys." One of the things we can see with an adult who goes through this is a hurt inner child. And what his prescription was for students who have the same things is to support that student in their involvement in school and help build a strong work ethic within them so they can have pride in themselves. Chapter 2, we see that Dr. Matthews chronicles the violence that he went through. I say he's still at a level 5 or 6. He says fist fighting is a stupid option. I saw the truth in my role as a middle school dean. Peaceful problem solving just makes sense. For adults or people who've gone through violence as a form of PTSD, sometimes what we see is muscle armoring or hypervigilance when it comes to physical safety. For those students, what he tells us to do is to help those students choose their battles. For chapter 3, we see him dealing with the mental illness of family members and substance abuse of family members. This is the only place I really saw him kind of duck down to more of a victim or powerless mindset. He says, "I was ducking, hiding, shaking, shivering, falling down, getting up, and standing tall all at the same time. I found my solace in writing and basketball and those people who supported either of the two." What we see in adults sometimes is a search for a rescuer, meaning sometimes we see adults who are still looking for someone to kind of come fix their problem for them. And one of the things he says really helps with this is to encourage a student's talent so they can see themselves, again, being able to do something well, do something to help their own situation. In chapter 4, he didn't really chronicle an ACE, but one of the things we see a lot is that just having students stay in a familiar environment where we normalize dysfunction, and that's what he talked about in this chapter. Those things can be detrimental to a student's mental and emotional health also. Here, I think he's very high, about level 6, 7. He says, "I didn't want to be seen acting a fool on the town at night and having the same person see me covering their child's basketball game. I also started to feel I would have a professional future, and all the writing and waking up at 5 a.m. to catch the bus to college might actually pay off." So he's seeing the good that can come even out of his hard situation. One of the things we do see if this doesn't happen is disassociation in adults. And what he tells us to do is see the good and then help students gain exposure to outside cultural awareness. And lastly, in chapter 5, we see him dealing with an incarcerated relative or friend and the substance abuse of his family members. Here, again, he's at a very high level 6. He says there isn't enough time to live in the past, handle our business for today, and plan for tomorrow. We must be decisive and understand where we are trying to go and what we need to do to get there. What we see a lot of times in adults who go through this is a lack of trust or hypervigilance. He says what helps that is building trust and relationship, mentorship. and helping students count the cost and choose friends wisely. Look ahead and see how actions affect their future. So if you guys will do that with chapters 6 and 7, when we come in, I want to meet again on Friday. Go ahead and get this finished up. And then we'll meet again one other time next week to finish the rest of the book. If you will just look at those things, kind of come up with your own ideas. When we get in there on Friday, what I'm going to do is split you up so that each one of you will be responsible for different areas so we can have a good little conversation. And we're going to finish this up and help implement some new things at our school next year.